Israeli military has said that approximately 5 missiles were fired from northern Gaza into Israel, 2 of which were intercepted. On the other hand, the Palestinian Civil Defense reported that the IDF also carried out an airstrike on Al-Wafa hospital in Gaza City's Jeju Air district that killed 7 and injured several others. The readout released by the IDF mentioned a precise strike targeting members of Hamas's aerial defense unit operating from a command and control center in a building that served in the past as Al-Wafa hospital. Israel is set to submit a report to the United Nations asserting that the hostages freed last year from Gaza includes children endured physical and sexual abuse. That's during their captivity. The report, prepared by the Israeli Health Ministry, is apparently based on the testimonies taken from the released captives. The Israeli Health Ministry has said that the report has detailed instances of victims being burnt, beaten and starved by the Hamas captors. The findings will be put forward this week to the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture. Israel's Army Chief Herzi Halevi has claimed a military victory over Hezbollah and has asked the Lebanese government to restart the local economy. Israel entered into a truce with Iran-backed Hezbollah group on November 27th, following nearly a year of exchange of cross-border fire initiated by Hezbollah over the war in Gaza. In a video statement released by the military, Halevi said that in order to achieve a long-term victory, the people of Lebanon need to visit restaurants and get involved in agriculture, which requires an active role of the Lebanese government. Azerbaijani president has called on Russia to admit its guilt for the unintentional shooting of the Azerbaijani airliner that crashed near the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan, killing 38 people and injuring 29 others. Aliyev has asked the country to issue a public apology. This a day after he spoke to his Russian counterpart. During the conversation, Putin had admitted that Russian air defense systems were repelling Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles in Grozny as well as Moscow and other areas at the time of the crash. In an interview with Russian news agency, Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov reacted to the proposals made by US President-elect Donald Trump. Lavrov cited numerous leaks and Trump's interview with the Time magazine on December 12th, in which he spoke about freezing hostilities along the current line of contact and transferring the responsibility of confronting Russia to Europe. Reacting to the same, Lavrov said, "We are certainly not satisfied with the proposal," sounding on behalf of the representatives of Trump's team. Lavrov, however, noted that Moscow has received no official signals from Washington regarding these proposals, adding that policy remains under the Biden administration until Trump's inauguration next year. Bihar police baton charged and used water cannons to disperse demonstrating Bihar Public Service Commission BPSC aspirants who are demanding a retest of the Combined Competitive Examination CCE. Thousands of students had gathered at Patna's Gandhi Maidan before marching towards JP Golambar, intending to proceed towards Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's residence. The superintendent of police said that the students pushed the police when asked to disperse, after which they used force. As Bangladesh continues to boil over the arrest of religious leader Chinmoy Krishnadas, chorus grows for his release in the United States, with Bangladeshi Americans urging Trump to intervene. Describing the atrocities against religious and ethnic minorities in Bangladesh as an existential threat from Islamist forces, the group comprising of Bangladeshi American Hindus, Buddhists and Christians have warned that Bangladesh is at risk of descending into radicalization, which could have far-reaching effects globally. Thus, a former ESKCON leader was arrested on November 25th at the airport in Dhaka. Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States of America, has passed away at the age of 100. Carter, the longest-living U.S. president in history, died in his hometown of Plains in Georgia. He had been under hospice care at home following treatment for an aggressive form of skin cancer in recent years. A Democrat, a Baptist, and a Nobel laureate, Carter rose from modest roots in rural Georgia to lead the nation from 1977 to 1981. Born as James Earl Carter Jr., a name he seldom used, he served 7 years in the Navy, achieving the rank of lieutenant. After transitioning to politics, he became a member of Georgia State Senate and later assumed the role of governor in 1971. Officials have recovered both the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder for Jeju Flight 2216, which crashed in South Korea a day ago. The crash, the deadliest in the history of South Korea, killed 179 people. The passenger plane flying from Thai capital Bangkok to Muan Airport was warned of a bird strike by the control tower during its first attempt at landing shortly after 9 a.m. local time. Well, minutes later, the pilot issued a mayday warning and tried to land again. Video showed the plane, a Boeing 737 with landing gear still retracted, attempting a belly landing. It skid along the runway with smoke trailing behind as it rammed into a wall at the end of the wall and burst into flames. Investigators probing South Korea's Yoon Suk-yeol over his declaration of martial law said that they have sought an arrest warrant for the suspended president. This after Yoon failed to respond to summons for questioning by the police and the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials who are jointly probing whether his December 3rd martial law declaration amounted to insurrection or not. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets of Valencia in Spain on Sunday to express outrage over the government's handling of the recent floods that ravaged the eastern region. The devastating disaster, which occurred on October 29th, claimed 231 lives and left countless others without homes, loved ones or livelihoods during the Christmas season. According to the regional police, around 80,000 demonstrators gathered to denounce the government's response to Spain's deadliest natural disaster in decades. Syria's de facto leader, Ahmad al-Shara, has said that holding elections in Syria could take up to 4 years. This was the first comment on Syria's electoral timetable since Bashar al-Assad was ousted this month. Shara said that drafting a new constitution could take up to 3 years. He further said that it would take about a year for Syrians to see drastic changes. And talking about the situation in northern eastern Syria, Shara said that there are talks with all parties to resolve the remaining disputes, including with the US-allied Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF). The Taliban Supreme Leader in Afghanistan has banned the construction of windows in residential buildings that overlook areas frequently used by women. The Taliban government spokesperson said in a statement that new buildings should not have windows through which the neighbor's courtyard, kitchen, and other places usually used by women are visible. According to the government, municipal authorities and other relevant departments will have to monitor construction sites to ensure that the view towards the neighbor's house is blocked in residential buildings. The already constructed buildings with such windows will be asked to build a wall or cover the view by other means. Mexican officials discovered 11 clandestine graves containing 15 bodies in Chiapas, a state plagued by a turf war between rival cartels. The graves were found in a raid in La Concordia near the Guatemala border, and 4 suspects were arrested with weapons and drugs. As officials work to identify the remains, the discovery is linked to a larger conflict that has displaced over 10,000 people. Asian shares edged lower as high treasury yields challenged lofty Wall Street valuations, while underpinning the US dollar near multi-month peaks. Volumes were light with the New Year holiday looming and a rather rare data diary this week. China has the PMI factory service out on Tuesday, while the US ISM survey for December is due on Friday. Shares of South Korean budget carrier Jeju Air hit their lowest on record this morning after the deadliest air crash in South Korea, killing 179 people. Jeju Air shares traded down 8.5% in intraday deals after falling as much as 15.7% earlier in the session. Now, that's the lowest since they were listed in 2015. The share slid today. It wiped out as much as $65.2 million in market capitalization. Shares of AK Holdings, the holding company of Jeju Air, fell as much as 12% and hit their lowest in 16 years on the Hong Kong exchanges. Japan's factory activity shrank at a slower pace in December as declines in production and new orders eased. New orders contracted for the 19th straight month on subdued demand in both domestic and key overseas markets. Some firms in the survey suggested that the semiconductor market was behind the weakness in new orders. Employment expanded in December, reversing its fall in November to reach its highest level since April. Firms in the survey said that they hired more workers due to labor shortages as well as in preparation for future demand. Input prices grew at the strongest pace since August, with firms citing higher cost of raw materials and labor. The weak yen also strengthened inflation to cope with rising prices. Firms raised their output prices at the fastest rate in 5 months. Oil prices edged up in thin holiday trade ahead of the year end as traders awaited more Chinese and US economic data later this week to assess growth in the world's two largest oil consumers. Brent crude trades around $75 per barrel, while US oil trades around $70 a barrel. Investors are eyeing China's PMI factory surveys due on Tuesday and the US ISM survey for December. In Europe, meanwhile, hopes for a new deal to transit Russian gas through Ukraine are fading after Putin said that there was no time left this year to sign a new deal. The loss of Russian gas should see Europe import more LNG that could raise prices in the spot market.